Yeah, I was talking about you guys before the show that I'd never talked about, and I've got plenty of stories from this job, but I'd never talked about this rental car company that I worked for, like right out of college. And because it turns out that when you graduate, this was like 7 years ago, 2013, when a lot of this happened, 2013, 14 mostly, and I worked at a rental car company, and it doesn't really matter what company it is. It's the kind where you have to dress up like you're going to a bar mitzvah, and really you just look like a retard renting cars in a suit, which sucks. And it's the kind where you have to pick someone up. And so I started working at this company, and one of the first things they do is they're like, and I'm right out of college, so I'm ready to be like, all right, I'm not going to make much money. I'm barely going to make any money. This is going to suck. I'm going to be working so much for this job, and I'm barely going to be bringing home anything, but whatever. You got to start somewhere. And so I started working for this company. They sent me down to their like main city where they train all the new people, and they give you a roommate in these situations. And they pair you up with a random guy. I was 22 at the time, I think, just turned 22. This guy was like 26, 27, Mormon, already had 3 kids. And there's an old adage. When I lived in Idaho, I learned a lot of Mormon adages. And one of them about Mormons is never go fishing with one Mormon because they'll drink all your beer. Always bring a second Mormon so that they won't drink in front of each other. And so I'm like trying to get ready for my first job and training and stuff. And I'm like, man, I have no perspective. I'm just worried about not getting something right. And so we get in there that night. I'm like ready to buckle down and study the little book and everything. I'm in the room, and he comes in and he's like, hey, you're Taylor, right? And I'm like, yeah, you must be Andy. He's like, yeah, real nice to meet you, man. Real nice to meet you. So where are you from? We have this little talk, and he's like, yeah. So what do you want to do tonight? I was like, we're on a work thing. It was my first ever work trip. And I was like, I assume you do work all the time on these. I'm trying to learn so I don't look like a fool tomorrow. And he's like, nah, I'm sure we'll be fine. Listen, you want to like go to a bar or something? And I was like, not particularly. It's already like 9 p.m. And he's like, how about we do, there's a liquor store across the street. Let's go to the liquor store and we'll get a couple things. I was like, all right, I'll have a few beers tonight. And so I go over to the liquor store with him. I grab a 6-pack, and I'm just waiting at the front for like 5-6 minutes, which is a long time to wait, standing there with a guy you don't know. And eventually I'm like, where the fuck is this motherfucker? And I start walking around, and he is like picking up every bottle of liquor, like fascinated with it. Like, oh my God, like the forbidden fruit for this guy. He loads up a mini cart with, we're there for 4 nighs, and he has enough booze for us to go on a 3-week bender. Both. He has no idea how much this. He loads it up, and he's coming to the front, all fucking smiles, this guy. He's like, you got all your stuff? I'm like, got like 1 6-pack of Bud Light. He's like, all right. So we check everything out, go back to the room. I start like drinking a beer while I'm doing everything. I turn around after maybe 15-20 minutes. He's drank half a bottle of vodka by himself, already blackout drunk. And this guy stayed blackout drunk for the next 4 days. He was showing up to like the work things drunk. He was out of fucking control. We would finish something up. Turns out Mormons get degenerate as shit once they get a little liquor in them. Maybe that's a rule. There was one night where he was begging me. He's like, come on, man, it's our last night here. Come on, let's go to the hot tub at the hotel. And I'm like, okay, let's go to the hot tub. He brings the free glass thing you use to rinse your mouth out next to the sink, and a bottle of Jack Daniels that he sets next to the hot tub. And we're sitting there with like 2 other normal people, and I don't even think I brought a beer because it wasn't allowed. And he gets wasted here, and he spends the entire last night and the second to last night vomiting and keeping me awake until like 4 a.m. And it was over and over. And at the end of it, he's like talking to me like we experienced a Hangover 2 style adventure. It's like, man, crazy times, right? And it's like, I haven't been drunk the whole time we've been here. I've had like 3 beers at a time. And he's like, nah, dude, we did crazy stuff. Anyway, dude, see you later, bro. Reheard from him because he worked in a different state, different area. He had to go to rehab for alcoholism, which apparently started on that little trip he and I had. So I got to watch the beginning of a flower blossom of addiction. And I actually encouraged it because I thought he'd be able to handle it. So yeah, that guy did it. Another thing about rental car places, do not buy the insurance if you have your own insurance. They're going to try and scare you because they tell the salespeople to scare the shit out of you. And what I discovered working out in Idaho with this, where there's a lot of Hispanic people who, like the first generation, don't speak English, and so they have their kids talk to you. The only people who buy insurance are people who don't need it, and the only people who don't buy insurance are people who do need it. Where like I can't count the number of times I'd be like at a fucking airport location, and some person would come up, like some Mexican lady, and then her very young, like 7-year-old kid, and I'd be like, "Hey, how can I help you, ma'am?" And then the kid would have to say like, "We want a car." I'd be like, "That's great. Can you tell your mom that I need her license and her credit card?" And she hands me a license and a very dented debit card, and I have to be like, "No, this is a debit. It's a debit card. You need a credit card." She's like, "No, it's credit. I use it credit all the time." It's like, yeah, you can hit credit when you're buying a Diet Coke at a 7-Eleven, but when you're renting a $75,000 Yukon, we can't run it as that. You have $75 in your account. And like the number of times I didn't try and sell like rich people any insurance. Like I was the fastest at writing the tickets because I'd be like, "You got insurance, brother?" You'd be like, "Yeah." It's like, "You're fucking perfect. Fucking good, dude. Should I buy the insurance?" No. Like, get out of here. I don't get commission for this. Why the fuck would I rip you off? But then when there would be like a Hispanic woman who comes up, I'm like, "Ma'am, please. If you wreck this, Javier, can you tell your mom what I'm saying right now? If you wreck the Yukon, that's an $80,000 car. 8,000 car."
That's not.
Yeah, 80,000 car. So if you wreck this car, you have to pay for the whole thing. The whole car. Javier, you're obviously you're looking at the vending machines. Javier, the whole car. See, yeah, whole car. It's like, so if you pay $20 extra a day, if you wreck it, you don't pay anything. But if you wreck it, your life and your children's lives are ruined. Just pony up and do it. They would never buy the insurance, and it felt like 10% of the time they'd come back and get absolutely fucked. The people who would buy it were like rich white yuppies who already had fantastic AAA or something and would just drop $20 for no reason a day on it. So never buy that shit. There was so much tomfoolery and nonsense. Always check your contracts from those people because they will sneak shit in order to get sales. Like they will tell you, there was one skeevy motherfucker that I worked with that was the worst about this. The forestry registry came in out of Idaho where I was. Apparently that's where the biggest conglomerate of these firefighters come from. And then they all moved from there down to fight the wildfires in California. And they had set contracts. But because we worked on a DOS system, a DOS prompt system, we could manipulate the contracts. And so there was this one bitch who, Amy, if you're out there, I hope life is going terrible for you. I hope it sucks. I hope you got divorced after you left us. And so, because what she did is they have like sales goals. And if you hit a certain thing, they incentivize us by like, you can just go home. You can go home if you want to do that. This bitch would take $20,000 in sales and apply it to a forest registry contract. And those guys don't give a shit. They'll sign whatever. And so then if I'm returning a car on the return lane and it pulls up that what was supposed to be a $1,200 rental for 2 weeks to the forest registry is actually a $35,000 fee. Do you know how upset a group of dirty firefighters get when you tell them they owe $35,000 for that? They get so upset. And then I have to call like the fire commissioner of it and tell him, "I'm so sorry. I got to refund $35,000, the cost of a nice fucking Optima that they already paid us." And then I get yelled at. That shit was the fucking worst. That job sucked. Another thing they would fucking do is I worked at the airport many times going all the way to 2 a.m. And you'd be there with a manager and you would run out of cars, just out. And I would have 70 reservations at 1 a.m. by myself, standing at the counter with my little fucking tie like a retard. And I would just hordes of people coming down the escalator to come to the rental place. And I'm just like trying to amp myself up like it's game 7, like, whew, all right, you're going to get yelled at by at least 75 of those people. It's okay. It's okay. Then they all get in line.
It's 75 out of 70.
75 out of 77, they're going to yell at me.
Okay.
Some of them have wives.
Some of them have wives there. None of them though, because they're getting in. They get in at 2 a.m. Most of them off of planes that were so delayed. They
Mhm.
just want their car and they just want to go home.
And they have
And
a
they
reservation, but you didn't reserve one.
have a reservation, and every time, 15 minutes before that plane lands, the manager would go, "It seems like you got a good handle of things, Taylor. I'm out," and they would leave, just to be me there. And they would come in, and you talk to the first guy in line, and he's like, slaps his fucking credit card and license on the table, not pleased. Boom. Reservation Thompson. We're out of cars, Mr. Thompson. What? I have a reservation. The best you could hope for in that situation is that the guy would say the Seinfeld line and I would go, ha. But like that was the best you could hope. Usually you would get screamed at, berated. They'd ask for your name. They'd like call and complain. I'd have to try and be like, the reason they did this is because they're trying. By the end of my tenure at this company, I was like totally like Stockholm syndrome with the shitty customers. I'd be like, we're all in this together, guys. We're all in this together. I'm so sorry. I hate this as much as you do. I make $30,000 a year to get screamed at. I'm not happy. I'm not happy at all. And just doing that.
You want to rent my car? I could use the cash.
What you get to do, what you get to do then is I have to like lean over and talk to the Hertz guy and be like, Tom, please, can you get some of these people going? He's like, Taylor, I'm so sorry, dude. We got like 2 cars and I got to save them. And so I would have to stand there until like 4:30 in the morning with every one of these people, calling cab companies to take them where they need to go, then paying for it over the phone with the corporate card. And then after one of the companies runs out of cabs, I have to find a new cab company for all these people. It was the fucking worst job. It sucked. You get yelled at constantly.
I would be so mad.
It was awful. The only good part of that job is that if somebody came in hot and like you could even whiff just the slightest of alcohol, you could shut it down. Nope, not renting to you. You smell like whiskey. You smell like, and it was only a couple times that a person would come in like stumbling drunk and yell at you because you wouldn't rent them the car they wanted. Also, there's a fundamental misunderstanding about how reservations work. You do not reserve the car. You're not reserving anything.
That's how reservations work, though.
No, for everywhere else. Yeah.
Rental
car companies, they shouldn't call it a reservation. They should call it a consideration.
They should call it a prepayment because that's what it is. You're just signing.
Woody and I showed up at a hotel once, and they'd given our reservation away.
Oh yeah.
And I think we said, "I don't think you know how a reservation works."
Yeah, I think we did.
How a reservation works. Do you know how many times I wanted to leap over that counter and strangle someone to death for saying that Seinfeld line for the 100th time that day? And it was infuriating because the fucking
Why didn't you put a sign up that said "all out of cars"?
We would, but there's still 80 reservations for the top of the hour, and they still think that when they hop off the plane, they're getting it.
Yeah. If there was no more cars, but I had a reservation, I would think you only have the reserved cars left.
I'm sure you have the vocabulary to make a sign that explains that.
These people are not wanting to read.
Yeah, but if you could just peel off 20% of them,
I think I'd still need to hear it. I think I'd still be like, well, wait, I have a reservation. Because I know how reservations were supposed to work.
Yeah.
I make a sign. All reservations are null and void. We are out of cars. 0 with the word 0 cars.
Now, are you out of cars or are you out of clean cars? What if I have low standards?
So usually the way it works is like those late night ones, there's no car preps there. And so you're literally out. But how it is sometimes, if it's like 5 p.m. and someone shows up and they have a reservation, it's like, I need a minivan. I have to like phone over to the car preps, who are the most degenerate group of no good nicks on earth. You leave anything in your rental car, that shit's getting stolen by one of the ex-cons that work in the car cleaning. I would get asked twice
I knew that.
a day.
They were gifts all along.
Twice a day, I would have to go down there with those animals and be like, did you guys find an iPad? And they'd be like, nope. I'm like, smile at me. And I'd be like, you motherfuckers, can you please give me the iPad? And they're like, what iPad? And I'm like, I don't get paid enough to deal with this. So I just go back and say, I don't have that. We just had, if somebody lost a Garmin or something, we just had a bucket of them Someone could have walked up and been like, "Hey, I lost 100 Garmins." I'd be like, "Just fucking just take them. I don't give a shit." And
A
so,
Garmin, the GPS, like weren't
yeah,
those?
GPS or something like that.
Okay.
This was like 7 years ago, and so people were still using some of those.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm trying to think of other shit that was just the fucking worst. Oh, we had I had a guy. I got in like a 30-minute argument with a guy that he was smoking in the car, and he was saying that there's no evidence of that. I know my rights. There's no evidence that I was smoking in this car. And so I did what they teach you to do, which is like open up the back rear front door, look at the bottom. There's a pile of ash there. That's how you know they smoked. Didn't have to do that though, because there were dozens of cigarette burns in the seat, in the upholstery.
Wow.
It was a Kia Soul, and it looked like it had been to Vietnam and back.
He put out his cigarettes on the upholstery.
Dozens of times. Just speckled shotgun
And then
looking
argued
thing.
there was no evidence.
I have it. I'll have to send you guys the picture. I guarantee if I go back to like 2013, I have that shit on my phone because you'd find weird shit in people's cars. You'd find dildos, sex toys. We found a costume once where
Those
you
are
can dress.
gifts for the cleaners, Taylor, and I'm surprised you're less appreciative.
One guy we found, he called back to ask. I'll send this too. It's a giant costume that you wear over your whole body, and it has an S on it, and it makes you look like a sperm costume. And so this guy had to call at one point, and he was like, "Yeah, I left a costume in the back of the car." And I was like, "What kind of costume, man?" He's like, "It's a sperm costume."
You know the costume, Taylor.
I know. I'll send you that picture too. At the time, I just wanted to hear him say it. I had the sperm costume in the office. It was making me laugh so hard. And yeah, the only place where
I'm actually wearing it right now. This thing's pretty kick-ass.
pretty cool. No, I didn't put it on. It smelled weird. And yeah,
That was
the only place
sperm.
where in the air, probably it was a little bleachy. But the only place where it's in the airport that I worked was at an insurance replacement branch. So you know how most times if you're renting a car out of town, you pop by a Hertz, Enterprise, whatever, you go in, just a normal what used to be a bank usually, and it's like, hey, give me whatever the hell, and they go, here you go, and they take it. An insurance replacement branch is when you get in an accident and it's at a body shop and they need to drive their shitty car, have it towed there, and then they get a horrible replacement car from you. And none of these people know, for the most part, that their insurance doesn't pay for rental cars. You have to opt into that in a lot of situations. And so they'll show up furious, like not even the chance to put them in a good mood. So you're like sitting there in the middle of a warehouse, like, how's it going, Mr. Jefferson? And he's like, well, I totaled my new car. How's your day going? And it's like, well, I regret to inform you, your insurance will not be covering the rental. How do you prefer to pay? It's like, oh, no, I'm not fucking paying. I'm not. You call my insurance. And then they yell at you. They scream at you. They call you incompetent. They say, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. Shut the fuck up. You're a fucking loser. Like they're mean as shit once they're in their zone of being pissed. One guy, it was in a bay, was so, I guess, not paying attention that there's a car in the front of the bay talking to the insurance person. At the entrance to the bay is where the rental place is, where they get you set up. There was a car pulled up to the insurance thing. Thank God no one was standing in the way. This guy must have came into the bay going 22 miles an hour, and he just slams into the back of this other car that's already there for repairs, and there's just fucking glass and shit all over the place. And then he gets out and yells at the lady who had that car there as if she was wrong. And he's like, these people are degenerates. They are the fucking worst a lot of the time. And then other times you'll come across the sweetest people in the world. My first day on that job, where I was working there, they tell me, Taylor, you don't know what the fuck you're doing, how to write contracts yet. Go pick up this lady. She's at this apartment complex. You don't know where it is. And so I had to look it up on my phone. I get over there, and there's like, I don't know what the hell was going on, but there were like a bunch of cars on the curb with people in it. And so I pull up my car there, and I don't know where to go because it's an apartment complex where there's just like stairs come down, and I just wait. I didn't know what to do. I didn't ever number anything. I just wait. And then I'm playing on my phone, and I'm startled because the door, my rear side passenger door, opens, and this woman just starts going, oh, thank God you're here. My goodness. I got to strap my kid in the back. Do you mind I do that real quick? She starts strapping her kid in. I haven't said anything at this time. She gets the kid strapped in, and she goes, I left my wallet in there. Give me 1 second. Closes the door. I didn't say anything. I haven't said anything so far. I'm now in the car alone with, I think,
in possession of her child.
The 4 to 5 year old child alone. And like, that is the worst parenting I've ever seen because I was not the only guy sitting there. There were 5 or 6 people sitting on that curb in a car. I don't know why, but for all she knew, she walked up to a random car, buckled her kid in, and left because I gave no affirmative acknowledgement of it. It was my first time. I was a little nervous, and so that was weird. Yeah, that job fucking sucked. I got to think of funnier stories for it. Right now, I'm just kind of ranting about how
What
much
made
I
you
remember.
choose it?
Sucked. I was desperate for money. I was just out of college. I didn't have hardly anything. Like I needed a fucking job, and they were the first one that called me back. Went in, interviewed, got it done, and I was like, that's what I got to do now. I got to make money.
Yeah, rental car companies hire a lot of people fresh out of college. Every major.
And they all leave within 2 years.
Yep.
The turnover time in those companies is the worst because you get paid shit and they work you. They tell you when you're getting the job, so you're prepared to work 48, 50 hours a week. And you're like, yeah, that doesn't sound hard. I don't think I worked 50 hours a week in the entire 2 years I was there. It was like always 60, 70, so much time. And you've never felt like as much of a fucking goober as when you show up to your new job wearing nice clothes and the first thing they tell you to do, nice ass new patent leather shoes, and the first thing they tell you to do is to go wash a car in a bay with an indented part that goes to a drain. And so day one, you've got soap that's ruined your shoes and the bottom of your pants. And you're sitting there in the heat of the summer, scrubbing a Honda Odyssey in the middle of a damp bay in a suit like an asshole.
I would quit. I would quit on day one.
I didn't have enough money to quit. I had to work.
I'd tell her, like, I'm wearing a suit. like, can I go get some khakis and a polo, or like is there a uniform here?
That wasn't
there a uniform like khakis and a polo?
No, it was dress pants, khakis, and then a long sleeve white or light blue shirt and a tie.
See, this is why I use Avis. Y'all are too stuck up over there.
You're preaching to the choir. Don't use Avis. The best one is use National, because National, you sign up for their Emerald Club, and then you don't have to talk to a single motherfucker at the airport. You
I
go
like
out,
to talk. I negotiate.
you scan it. You're not going to negotiate with one of these companies that well.
I've done it many times. I always get a free upgrade.
Free upgrade. Those are, what they do is they add.
I'm a mid-size to a full-size SUV.
You know what was the worst is when someone would come in and it'd be like, I rented an economy Toyota Corolla. And it'd be like, ma'am, I've got such a treat for you. A brand new
Camry.
Ford F-250. Hold the phone, ma'am. Hold the phone. This is a free upgrade for you. A free upgrade into and every time. The reason I'm doing it is because that's the only car on the lot, and I'm trying.
Of course.
And then she'll be like, that's a little too much car, and I'm just driving to Provo to see my nephew and the gas mileage on that. And I'm like, ma'am, have you ever heard of Sirius XM? Because this comes with Sirius XM stuff. This woman is 5'0" and elderly. I'm trying to just grind her into a fucking never
You're
worked.
exaggerating. Not really a 250.
It was a 150.
Still, yeah, okay.
I always try to like upgrade, like an upgrade that makes sense though, like a V6 to a V8, or like a.
What do you say to get it?
I tell them what I want. I just start a conversation with them, like yeah, it's gonna be kind of tight in that Explorer. Can you just get me in an Expedition? I saw some out there.
If you want to get free upgrades like that, like if you're paying for something that's $20 a day and you want a car that's $55 a day, just tell the person at the counter and go, hey, I want a free upgrade, but I'll also buy roadside assistance protection from you. So then you get a sale and it's all fine. And that's only an extra $4.99 a day. So basically you're getting a car for $35 that's more expensive. You pay $4.99. We're both happy and look good. And 100% of the time people are like, oh, fuck yeah. Yeah, let's do it.
So many times I've got so many times I've gotten free stuff or free upgrades just in life, just by asking. In car sales, we call it asking for the sale. Somebody be like, yeah, you didn't buy the car. Did you ever ask him to? What do you mean? Did you ever say, buy the car, sign here? No, I would never be so direct. It's like,
Jesus, that's day one. You have to ask.
Don't be a pussy. Like just ask. The same
The-
with everything in life. It's always just like figure out what you want and go for it. Like somebody was like, how could you possibly get a girl to agree to a three-way? It's like
Ask for the sale.
ask. Like, hey, I'd like to do this. What about you? No? How about for $500? Yeah, huh? Oh well, I knew you weren't that much of a stickler. Well, just ask for the sale with everything. Ask for anything, like whether you want a library card or an upgrade at the car rental place or whatever. Just ask.
So if you want a nicer car, go to so here's the trick that I'll do if I want something nicer is you never walk up to a rental car counter and say, I'm a walk up. I don't have a reservation. What are your rates for this? Because you have total control of what to do. And there were times that our managers would tell us like, hey, if they ask, a Yukon's $400 a day because we've only got one and we have to save it. And eventually someone will come up and be willing to pay that. But if you want a cheaper thing and you know more people have it, go to a different rental car place, get a quote, then go to a second one, get a quote, and then go to the one that you originally wanted, ask for their what their listed price is, first look online, and then tell them you'll pay $10 more for it per day. Because in their system, even though that's cheaper than the two previous places you found, those are just excuses in case they need to bring it up. But you just tell them, hey, I know that's listed at 130. You guys just said you're charging 400 a day. How about I give you 140 a day? That way you get your nut, I get mine, and I'm not wasting an extra 260 a day. So always look up what the rate is online before you walk up to the counter. Because if it says 140 online and they say it's 400, you show them that and they have to honor it. And well, they don't have to. They can do whatever the fuck they want. But just tell them, always tell the salesman you'll pay an extra 5 or 10 a day for whatever they want, and they will do it because they don't give a shit. They do not fucking care. So, yeah, just offer to buy something most of the time. Never pay the upgrade price. It's absurd.
It makes sense.
Absolutely absurd. So, yeah, and that is all I've learned from that. Totally useless information piled in my head. Do you know how fast I could work that DOS prompt system? Tab F4, pop, 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 pop. It was horrible. It looked like swordfish hacking. Like that's it was literally that. It was tab F1. What's your driver's license number? You have insurance. F1 F4. You know, all that.
The airplane people are the same way. They're hitting keys at a lightning pace. Yet for some reason it still takes 18 minutes to check me in and check my bags. Yeah. How much does your system suck?
It was so bad, it was baffling. Bafflingly bad. They're still using the same system that I left 7 whatever it was years ago, and holy shit.
If it's DOS based, it's from like the 80s, man.
It was an improved DOS system from 1994 is what we were using.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. It was just black background and then like blinking green digits.
Well, come to think of it, like the car sales like program, I can't think of what it's called. It's the same shit. We call it the blue screen, and it's it's a blue background, and it's just super simple. Just no interface capable. Like there's no like scanning anything in. Everything is manual prompt, and it was
pretty sophisticated when I bought my last car at the Toyota place. Like where I signed was it was all, you know, the credit card where you sign but you can't see what you're writing. It looked like that, but really high tech. It looked like an Apple version of that. Some clean interface, and he had a nice clean interface on his screen. Must have been in the last couple of years.
Oh, that was that'd be the insurance guy if you're seeing that. He right? Was, like, not insurance, but like finance.
Finance guy. Yeah, he was that guy. The guy up front, I think it was a Foursquare. I called it a Foursquare, and he looked at me like I knew what I was talking about.
We had a game at the airport. So like my manager, very nice guy, but horrible at handling like conflict with customers. He was too nice. He wasn't good at putting his foot down ever, and would end up just giving them the farm if they asked for it. And so after a while, there was one time where people were asking for a manager in a hectic situation, and I was just like, yeah, that's me. Just lied and then handled it okay. And so from then on at the airport, like when there was a really horrible customer, they would call an audible called Pretend Manager. And I was Pretend Manager. And so like I would get calls and I was doing fleet management stuff, and it'd be like, hey, what's up? And he'd be like, fleet manager was like being outside, like organizing what cars go where. It's like after you graduate from finishing the ticket writing, or at least it was at this branch. and he would call out to the booth and be like, "Hey Taylor, we got a really rowdy one here on line 2. Can you pretend manager for us?" I'd be like, and I loved pretend manager. It was so much fun to be pretend manager.
I like to think you did accents for no reason.
Hello. Yeah. Yeah, and it would just be shit like answering the phone. Taylor, manager of the airport. And they'd be like, I was just talking to someone and they are not refunding the $40 that you owe me. And then I would just like make up managerial protocols a lot of the time. Where I'd be like, we have something called the T2 form. You're going to want to dial him back. Make sure you get that. That's called a lost item form. Now you're going to transition that from me to the actual airport security. They know exactly where to file. A lot of this was just buying time for the manager to figure out what it was. So you're going to call them, ask about that, and then you ring us back and make sure you have and then just list off a couple, your insurance card number, your just stuff to slow them down, to make it so we can actually find what they lost or get what they need. And I would just send these people on goose chases. And just absolute goose chases to find all these things. And then usually by the time they got back, it'd be like, oh, it's all, you don't need any of that. It's all sorted. It's all. And then other ones, the most fun one of those, there was this like really effeminate, short, fat guy who he came in right into the front and he said, I reserved a Chevy Tahoe and I don't see a Chevy Tahoe. I just walked your lot. He was giving me that head shake and that condescending. I just walked your lot. I reserved a Chevy Tahoe and it is not there. Do I need to go to a competitor? Do I need to call my friend who is a lot higher up here in you at this company? Do I need to do that? Do I need to do it? And I remember doing pretend manager and I was like, sir, you're acting erratic. Have you been drinking? There were other people in line. He's like, the fact you would even ask that says more than enough. I'm definitely ringing him. I'm ringing him. I'm like, sir, as far as we are as a company, I'm sure you know a lot of people who are high up here, and I respect that. You've just come in here in a way that I no longer feel secure renting our property to you. I apologize for the inconvenience. If you'd like, I could call you a cab and get you where you need to be. It's just our property and yourself, sir, for your own safety. I don't know if we feel it's the best idea that we give you a vehicle at this time. And like keep it way tamped down so that the comparison between us is extreme, that anyone around is observing that I am the one who's right. And so, oh man, if I could go back there for
Such
a day,
piece of shit. I hate you.
all I would do is be pretend manager.
I just came here to get my Tahoe and it's not here.
Sir, are you on any drugs right now? Because you're acting very erratically. And is that a blade you have?
Is that a blade? He's got a knife. He's got a screaming in there.
I don't know about it, but I feel like I smell alcohol and pot on him.
I think I smell. Is that plastic explosive? Do you have
I don't smell it.
Explosives?
Let me tell you why, though, he was freaking out about the Tahoe. Because I told him, you only reserved a class of car. You didn't reserve a Tahoe. We're giving you a Suburban or whatever the equivalent was. And he would not take it. He refused. He thought I was lying about going out there. And so he went and walked the lot, which took him way too long to walk the entire fucking airport lot and then come back and get mad. And so it was definitely his fucking fault. He could have just taken the Suburban and left instead of screaming at me in front of.
You should have leaned in close and whispered that to him. You could be leaving with a Suburban. So I'm going to humiliate you in front of all of these people.
Yeah. And I still remember the person who came, and what ended up happening in the end, it was all fine. He ended up calming down, and then actual manager, who I said was the branch, the higher manager,
this is Mr. Hertz himself.
And then, hey, suddenly when you tell someone you're not getting a car, suddenly the Suburban seems like a great idea, doesn't it? And he was more than happy to take that Suburban by the time it was done. And literally the next lady in line, or it was maybe a couple after, because there were dozens of people in line as we're having this bout of frustration, were like telling me, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
We're such fucking sheep.
Yeah, don't be sorry. I was actually fucking with him. That went perfectly from my perspective.
Oh, I didn't smell anything. To be honest, I have a Suburban, a Tahoe. I got all kind of shit back there. I just have a little fun.
The secret is I did smell whiskey, but that was me.
Yes. I mean, I'm drunk as shit, and I'm high.
I'm fucking I smelled my own burp, I think.
To be honest, I crashed the Tahoe last night, and that's why it's not available.
I'm going to the funny ones, but for every one of the funny pretend managers, genuinely, there were 20 times that I handled an actual problem way fucking better than my managers, just because I wouldn't get all sheepish or I wouldn't get all like flustered and yell like a couple of them would. So
what's wrong with sheepish though? Like, I know when I had people do customer support at Woodycraft, I had to get people off of that job or even fire a couple because they try to win at customer service. And it's like, no, winning at customer service is when the customer walks away happy. That's how this is done.
Yes.
You know, if you battle this guy in some sort of argument and you clearly come out on top, great. That doesn't help Woodycraft at all. That sucks.
Yeah. See, the thing was, like, at least in this business, it was like, if you're too sheepish, like some sales or managers people were, like, you would get bullied into renting a car like a Tahoe for $19 a day. And then it's like, we're hemorrhaging money on this. Like, people are getting mad. And so that's like the level of sheepish I'm talking about, is managers letting themselves get absolutely stomped on.
But who cares about the bottom line?
I don't care. I just don't want to get yelled at by the area manager who would come. This fucking weirdo who worked there, the area manager. I remember he was so strict. You had to shave every day. And you
I remember that.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember there was one, me and my buddy, we worked at the insurance replacement branch at this point, and it was the redheaded stepchild of the entire area. He never came to our branch because it was a shithole. There weren't enough chairs for all the employees. We had to stand most of the time. We got so bored in the middle of that warehouse.
Chair.
I'm saying we got so bored in the middle of this warehouse, you know, those bays, that I ordered off Amazon a cheap hockey net and some sticks, and we would just play hockey in there sometimes when it was slow. But this guy, me and my buddy Sean, who worked there, both of us were low little underlings, and we had made it 3 weeks without shaving. It was a game for us to like play, you know, chicken and see how long we could go. And so like I'm for weeks now, no fucking tie, sleeves all up, beard, don't fucking care. And then there was one time where I wasn't paying attention, and I was just sitting like doing something on the computer, and then the area manager comes in. He goes, "Well, hey, Taylor." And I was like, "Hello." I've got a full beard, sleeves up, shirt's dirty, no tie.
I'm not Taylor. This is a disguise.
Like, what are you doing? And I was like, I was doing callbacks for overdue cars. And he's like, yeah, are you? And I was like, yeah. He's like, haven't shaved in a while, have you? And this guy was such a passive aggressive fuck. He would never actually call you out. He would just make little office space like, right, we're going to need you to shave that by Monday. If you could do that, that'd be great. And so then I figured, this bitch is never going to get onto me for anything. And so I could just do whatever I want as far as not shaving and rolling up my sleeves and not wearing a tie. And so that's what I did. So it all panned out. Other than that, I was a great employee.
That's a long list of that's.
Yeah. You've been going for 35 minutes. This was a deposition.
Hey, Pretend Manager was a good bit, and I'm never backing down from Pretend Manager. And it was mostly helpful.
I think helpful for you passing the time, but as far as fuck.
Okay. When you worked your 60-hour plus a week, how many hours did you work?
I never really counted like the driving time as working that much because that was so easy. But other than that, like you're fucking standing, typing tickets and doing back end stuff the entire time. You're doing shit, and then like managers pass stuff off, and so they'll be like, "Hey, we got a." And then sometimes, it was fun when you got to do this. They'd be like, "All right, we got a red minivan." I had to do this a couple times. There was this dirt poor trailer park in rural Idaho, and they were like, "All right, well, it's been 4 weeks since we've seen this Chevy. Who wants to go out and take a look? Who wants to go drive the trailer park and ask around, see if they know where it is?" And I would always be like, yes, this is so cool. I want to do that. And so I'd drive around in a trailer park, and like if anyone was standing, I'd be like, "Hey, have you seen a red, really new looking van recently?" And like it was like sleuthing. I never actually found any, but it was fun.
I didn't expect it to be such hard work. My impression was that planes roll in, you sprint for 15 minutes, and then wait an hour. But I guess not.
It was like they would have you so short staffed. It'd be like, "All right, plane's coming in. You're going to be busy for 40 minutes writing those. And then as soon as you're done, you bust your ass down to the wash bay and you start washing cars. And so I've washed, even wearing your suit, I washed thousands of cars.
I didn't know the people at the registers wash cars when I wasn't
such
there.
bullshit.
Yeah, forced to wash the cars because the car preps down there don't give a shit. They never see the customer, and so like they'll do a half-ass job, and then
They
like
weren't
you'll
caring like you were.
I didn't want to get yelled at by the customers and stuff, and I did. To be fair, every branch I worked at, their like score of customer satisfaction, the time I joined to the time I ended went up significantly. So I did fucking help, and I did work hard at those jobs. I really did, because I would. You've been in that situation where you feel like enough people aren't busting their ass that it motivates you to bust ass, where it's like, what am I, like one of these people? Like one of these lazy fuckers? No, I'm at work. I'm going to fucking work. And so, but those days would come and go. Some days you get berated by enough people at 11 a.m. You're like, I'm just going to go lose myself at the Mexican bistro upstairs for a while and hope nobody asks for me.
It takes me 35 minutes to poop. Nothing I can do about it. I'll be back.
Oh,
I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'd just go out in the parking lot and fall asleep in a Suburban for an hour or so.
There was a guy that got fired because he did it every day for like a month.
I did it a lot. You know, I had a hard time getting my sleep in at night. We were always partying. We'd be up until 3 a.m. and then have to be at the work at like 9 or I don't know, maybe 8:30. So around 11 a.m., I just go out in the lot and find something comfy to get in and take a little nap.
Yeah. I mean, you couldn't get away with doing nothing because they would keep like a tally of how many tickets or contracts you'd written that month. But I even convinced my manager at one point. He's like, Taylor, your sales are terrible. Are you even asking to sell insurance anymore? And I told him, this is the one who asked me to do pretend manager all the time. I was like, no, I'm not asking anymore. And he's like, you have to at least ask, man. And I was like, let me put it to you this way. Our customer satisfaction has skyrocketed. Why? Because we're moving so much faster out of here. So you got 4 people working tickets trying to sell, and they're writing 200 to 400 tickets a month. Then you got me banging them the fuck out over here. You got insurance, hell yeah. And I've got the line moving. I'm writing 1,000 a month, just tearing through this shit. And so I didn't think he would buy that, but he did. So I didn't have to try selling anymore after that. But I helped with customer satisfaction. So don't work at a rental car place unless you're just out of college or you luck out, because it sucks. It's no fun.
I rented a car from Toro, and I was pretty happy with it. I like the experience. Like, there's no rental counter where the lines can be so long. The car was right there. I returned it dirty, but not like scummy or anything. The inside was completely clean. It was fine. But the tires had run through like puddles and had like that sort of streaks of dirt next to the, behind the tires, like on the side of the doors and stuff. And he charged a good amount, like $40 cleaning fee or something.
Really? Like a detailing fee? That's surprising.
I could have just run it through like a gas station car wash probably and avoided it. But, like I...
Well, Turo rents the nice cars. So that might be different. I remember I worked at a rental car place, and they'd be like, yeah, get it as dirty as you want. And I'd be like, you fucking asshole manager. You're not going to have to clean that. I'll probably have to. And some piece of shit people would take that literally, and like there would be folded up baby diapers in the back seat, like all sorts of trash in there. I remember I returned a car for this one guy. He was in a Nissan Cube, and there were so many holes all over the car that he apparently never got through a cigarette. He would just drop it on his seat and let it burn fully.
That's how he extinguished them.
I might on my phone still have these photos from like 2013 or 20 whatever it was, where I returned it, and it was so outrageous. I was taking photos, and it was like just half a dozen holes just burned all over the seats. And I like returned. I'm like, dude, we got to charge you for a detail because you clearly smoked in the car. And like as he's lighting, I was like, no, I didn't. And then all you have to do, like, you just open up first of all, I was like, well, I know there weren't this many cigarette burn seats when you took it out, because they wouldn't have rented it to you if there were a bunch of cigarette burn seats. And then also, like, if someone has smoked a little bit in the car, you can check the door behind the driver's seat, and you'll see ash there in that lower area. It looked like a cremated body. It's absurd amount of This guy was spitefully smoking in the car.
You got two of these double fisted over there.
It was awful. Those were the worst fucking things because you don't want to have a conflict with someone like the airport.
Yeah, no, not at all. I remember returning a car once, and I was in Texas, and it was one of those instances where I hadn't timed my drive perfectly to correspond with my flight, and because I'm in another state. And it was like a 3-hour drive to the airport, maybe more. It was more. It was 3 or 4 hours, and I was just running out of time, and I had already stopped for gas once, but it wasn't full, and I'm like 10 miles from the airport, and I'm like, it's almost full. It's almost full. Like they'll probably just, a couple gallons. How much could it cost?
At $7 a gallon, a lot.
Oh, so I would have loved it if they'd only charged me $7 a gallon, Taylor.
What company were you using?
I have no idea. Maybe Enterprise. It was a lot, though. I remember it being like, it actually probably ended up being like 5 gallons, and I think it was like $80.
See, that's the thing.
It was something ridiculous.
You're supposed to return it full, but we all know if you return it like 2 gallons not full, that's full, right? The thing that the little gauge is still touching the F, and like you're cool, everything's fine.
Yeah.
But if they have to fill it, then they fill it to where you didn't, where you never would have.
Yeah.
Dude, returning people's cars who were like, "Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't have time to fill up the last quarter tank. How much is that going to run us?" I remember on the little handheld thing, like scanning it and punching it in and being like, that's going to be $50. But that, man, in my last like few months there when I was like, fucking, I don't care, I would be like, that is outrageous, close enough. And I would just delete all the fuel charges. Cause it would honestly be, someone would show up with 3/4 of a tank and they'd want you to charge like an extra, like Kyle said, like $60 or something that's like gonna cause an issue. And when there's 100 people behind them waiting to be checked in, I would just, at that point in my little car rental career, I was like, I don't fucking care. Yeah, it doesn't matter. You're not paying for gas. 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 We're getting this done. We're getting it out of here, folks. And that was, you just needed to find me on my last bit there because you could have drove it. I remember we were supposed to do this thing with like, and so every time you return a car, you have to do this 1-minute evaluation of the car, make sure everything's okay. And, it's real good to do. Not once did I ever do that. I would just walk around and just kind of give it the, like,
Yeah,
it looks fine. I remember one time, it wasn't even me. It was this other guy who I think he was like baked as shit at work. He returned a car and didn't charge someone for an entirely shattered windshield to the point that like there was a hole in it. Like you can't even fix that. And so this guy invented this huge lie that when he was driving through the cleaning bay, that a mechanical part fell off and hit it. And like made up this lie. And immediately like all the assistant managers at the branch were like, that didn't happen. Like,
if you buy the insurance, can you do anything? Like, so I watched
you can't intentionally harm the car. Yeah.
Who's the guy with the really deep voice who's been on our show a couple times? Like
I don't know.
car salesman.
Wiki?
Yeah, Vin Wiki said it might have been him or his friend Rabbit or something. They were telling about they bought the car insurance, and they were like off-roading Ford Mustangs to where like the tie rod got ripped off the bottom or something insane like that. And they bought the insurance, and they're like, "Yeah, well, that was a good call, good, no problem."
So if you admit to having off-roaded, that would void it. But I doubt they admitted to off-roading when they returned it. So they could have said they just hit a dust storm, or I don't know. Yeah, you can't off-road it. That's the big thing I remember is not off-roading, and you can't let somebody who's not on the contract drive.
Because if you
like,
rent
someone else is on the contract and they're driving, and you're a retard, and you're like, yeah, well, it was Susan driving, even though it's Brad with the contract, then the rental car company can be like, well, you're on the hook for 100% of it.
What if you rent like a Jeep Wrangler? You can't take it off road?
No,
Really?
You can't take anything off road unless you specifically rent it for that.
But it's
Yeah.
trail
Okay.
rated. There's a sticker on
Yeah.
the side. It says trail rated.
It is, but it's a liability thing from the company standpoint. Like
Just being an
it's
idiot.
in. I know you are. But it's like, oh, we're prime off-roading vehicle. No off-roading.
Oh, well, Woody, I didn't realize there was a sticker. The corporate policy was wrong.
I am so glad to not be doing that anymore. Oh
So
my God.
what?
Yeah.
When you didn't care about the job, did you have another one, or you just didn't care about work?
It got to the point that like I was really good at a few things. I was really good at fleet management. So like if they put me in charge of that, I was really good at predicting like what the workload would be like for that day. And so it'd be like early in the morning, like, all right, pull X amount from here. Now that not that many aren't going to show up. That's a waste of money. Don't send that many drivers. Like that kind of shit. Like I was pretty good at. I was good at the customer service thing too. I've told you guys about Pretend Manager, where I would be pretend manager for difficult situations, and I just got a kick out of it. It was so much fun. But yeah, as far as sales was concerned, by the end, I was like writing, because it would have a little chart in the back where it's like everybody's name, and it'd be like number of tickets written. Like a ticket is just someone you're writing out for a thing. I was leading the pack in tickets every month, trailing tremendously in every aspect of sales, because they would like give you this like 12-point thing to ask people that was outrageous. And it got to the point where it was like, this line is taking forever. People are hating us. I would just be like, you got insurance? Yeah. Boom. You're good, hon.
Did you get paid for it?
No, you don't get.
See, so I used to
Shit on
work
that.
customer service, and there were 4 bonuses we got. And those bonuses did so much to drive the way that we did. I was on the phone, like, solving software problems. And we got a bonus for like if you solved 2/3 of the calls the first time they called, there was a bonus for that. So you knew that. And maybe the call's going on like 7 minutes, and this might be a situation where you're getting borderline on like, hey, I'll call you. Let me research this and call you back. Or, let me look at this. Like, hang on a second. Maybe I could find this answer in a few minutes and answer it right now for you. That second one became way more attractive because there's a bonus on the line. What happened is the managers at this call place figured out that what you bonus for is the behavior that you get. So, like, that's one example. You bonus for solving calls on the first try. People start solving calls on the first try. You bonus for, there's like an interaction with the knowledge base, right? Mm-hmm. So if I got a call that came in, I had to either use the knowledge base and link that call to it, or I had to enhance the knowledge base so that the next guy that comes along will have this answer for him. And they bonus how often you improve the knowledge base or use it. People use it every fucking call because there was money in it for us. Yeah. So if you were paid for insurance sales, you would have sold. I'm sure of it.
Oh, I'm sure. Like the little benefits they would give you were so outrageous as far as money that my manager at the airport started like outrageous as in like you would have to sell so much to get a pittance, nothing, like an impossible amount to get an impossibly small bonus.
That's dumb.
Like
if they gave you a third of the insurance, they'd make more money.
Oh, they would make fucking bank if they did that. But like they make pretty much every rental car company makes the bulk of their money in those insurance packages. And so I remember there would be times where like I wouldn't sell for 3 days in a row. My manager would, he just liked me for some reason. And he'd be like, hey, Taylor, you haven't sold anything in like 2.5 days. And I was like, yeah, I mean, but look at how many tickets I've written. How good is our customer service because of how much I'm pumping people out of here? And he'd be like, all right, well, and then he would set things like first person to sell 10 of the collision protection insurance goes home the second that they've put the last one. And he was like a didn't really fucking care manager. And he's like, oh yeah, I'll just punch you out whenever. And so the second he would give those challenges, I would go sales mode and always get out of work. Like it would be like I was on I remember one time I was on a 6 to 6 shift and he gave that challenge at 8 a.m. At 8:30, I left.
30 minutes.
Like, and the way I would get people into that is I would be like, all right, collision protection, that's the only thing that you need. These other 3 insurances, ridiculous. It's supplemental to everything you already have. This one, you're only here for a day, $20 for the day. You're like that kind of shit. Like that was easy as pie. If it was someone who showed up for like 10 days, I'd be like, all right, let me just get you done really quick because there's no reason for you to spend $210 insuring something you already have insured. Get the hell out of here. And so I would just find like 10 people with 1 day rentals and be like, this is what you need. They'd be like, all right, whatever, $20, and then zoot the fuck out of there. That was my main incentive, was get out of the Boise airport. This sucks.
So when you find yourself
hate
leading people or people on the call, like you get the behavior that you pay for, and that
Yeah.
matters.
And I didn't even mislead people about it. Like there was this, I've talked about this one cunt who I worked with that would just throw contracts onto forest registry people. And so it'd be like, all right, we're renting a Yukon for 3 months. And she would just throw literally $30,000 of insurance, knowing that the firemen don't give a shit. They're going to sign for whatever. And so then she would get off for forever and get a bonus. And by the time they returned it and I had to delete all of it, like nothing happened. She fucking sucked. I hope life's going poorly.